The scorching Oakland sun was burning straight through my skin that afternoon. You know what I mean. The kind of heat that makes the air shimmer on the sidewalk and everyone just a little meaner, a little more tired. And I was only halfway through my grocery run when everything changed. There were sirens somewhere out on Broadway. Traffic snarled up as usual. But what made me stop dead wasn't any of that. It was the sound of Lena Carter's voice. A mix of fear and disbelief that cut through all. The city noise. "What are you doing?" she was shouting. But her words got twisted right out of her mouth because Officer Darren Finch, this white cop with the kind of face you remember for the wrong reasons, had her arm bent so far behind her back I swear I heard her shoulder pop. And for what? Nobody knew, because he never showed a badge, never said what she'd done. He just kept cranking those cuffs until her fingers went white. Not a word, just that gripping around them. A crowd started to build. The usual in these situations. Phones out, faces frozen somewhere between scared and just tired, nobody wanting to get involved. Because, hell, we'd all seen how these stories usually ended. But then, and this is what made today different, a voice cut through the mumble, low and steady and carrying the kind of weight you can't fake. "Let my wife go." That was Julian Carter, 6'3" and built like a man who's seen too many things he'd rather forget. Scars on his knuckles and something in his eyes that said he'd led men through places most of us only see on the news. Finch looked at him like he was nobody, told him to back up or he'd be next, but Julian just stood there, calm as you please. "You're not above the law," he said, his voice so quiet it made people lean in. But Finch just sneered. "Neither are you." And then, honest to God, it all went sideways so fast it barely felt real. Finch shoved Lena forward. She hit the concrete, knees first, scraping through her dress. And Julian, he didn't even hesitate. Just one clean punch, fast as a snake, put Finch flat on his back in a pile of newspapers, the sound of it echoing. Gasps from the crowd. A kid somewhere screaming. All those cell phones trembling in hands that suddenly realized maybe this wasn't just another video for the internet. Lena was on the ground, breathing heavy, her hair coming undone, one hand still cuffed. Julian down next to her, asking if she was okay, his voice softer now, and she nodded, trying to hold herself together. And you could feel the crowd split right there. Some started calling Julian a hero, others whispering that Lena must have done something wrong to get a cop that mad. A college kid tried to step in to help, but a guy in a suit pulled him back. "Don't. It's not your problem." And that's when the sirens came. 2 squad cars sliding in, doors flying open, cops with guns out, hands everywhere, in the air. And Julian did it, raising his palms. "I'm unarmed." The words almost lost in the shouting that could have gone any way, you know. But then a new voice snapped through the chaos. "Lower your weapons, now." And all of a sudden Sergeant Maria Reyes was there, her badge flashing in the sun, voice sharp as glass. And just like that, everyone froze. She'd seen this too many times, you could tell. And when she asked what was going on, Finch was still on the ground, groaning, his pride as busted as his jaw. He struck an officer. One kid cop tried to say, but Julian was quiet. She was never under arrest. He grabbed her without cause. Reyes just nodded once. Went over to Lena, saw the swelling on her wrist, the tear in her dress. "Unlock her," she ordered, and you could see the shame burning the rookie's cheeks as he fumbled with the key, mumbling sorry under his breath. And Lena just stared at him, not saying a word. Because sometimes silence hits harder than anything you could ever say. They took Julian to the station anyway. Booked him, stamped his wrists, emptied his pockets, all routine. And when they asked him, "Ever been arrested before?" he just looked the officer in the eye and said, "Only for the color of my skin." And there wasn't a sound in that room for a long, cold minute. Meanwhile, Lena was stuck in a side room with a blonde cop who clearly wanted to be anywhere but there. "Why did your husband assault a police officer?" she asked, all clipped and official. But Lena just looked at her. "Is that what we're calling it now?" And the officer sighed. "We just need your version. Help yourself by cooperating." But Lena thought about all the job applications that had gone nowhere, the way store clerks watched her, the stories her grandmother used to tell. And she remembered what Julian said on those nights he couldn't sleep. "Your voice is your weapon. Use it or let them silence you forever. So she leaned in and said, I won't be silent. Not this time. And the cop just shook her head, like she'd heard it all before back in the holding cell. Julian sat alone under a flickering bulb, and outside. The word was already out. Somebody'd filmed everything, uploaded it, and it was spreading. People arguing online, some furious, some saying that could have been their brother, their father, and outside the precinct, the crowd grew bigger, holding signs, chanting, a girl with a cardboard sign. We saw everything. And inside, Finch wouldn't talk to anyone, jaw wired shut. But his eyes said enough. By nightfall. It was national news, a shaky clip of Julian punching Finch to protect Lena. And suddenly everyone had an opinion, some blaming Julian, saying he should have just complied, others saying, finally, somebody stood up. And the next day the chief held a press conference, promising a full investigation but quick to say, we will not tolerate violence against our officers. But when a reporter asked about Finch's past complaints, the chief just dodged. No official record. He mumbled, and everyone knew that meant nothing at home. Lena and Julian just sat in the dark, TV replaying the story, both of them understanding the message. People like them don't matter enough to be protected, and that afternoon the DA made it official. Julian would be charged with assault. Not a single word about Finch grabbing Lena without reason. And that was it. Something snapped. Protests broke out. People marching, signs everywhere. Enough is enough. But so did the backlash. Shops closed. Neighbors stopped talking. A woman spat at Lena in the store. Because of you people, we can't even feel safe anymore. And Lena just stared at her, then said, neither could I, and walked away. Even the student who tried to help posted his own story. I spoke up. I got threats and lost my job. Sorry, Julian. Sorry, Lena. The trial was a circus. Darius, because that's what everyone called Julian now, became a symbol, some saying he was a hero, others calling him a menace. But Darius kept quiet, knowing anything he said would be twisted. But Lena never missed a hearing, just sat there, strong, never crying. And sometimes that's all you need in closing arguments. The prosecutor tried to make it simple. This is not about emotion. Mr. Jackson struck an officer. The law does not excuse rage. But then the judge leaned in, voice quiet. This court must address new evidence, records previously suppressed, internal complaints, documented misconduct by Officer Finch. And the room gasped, and he went on. Considering all this, and the principle of proportionality, this court finds Mr. Darius Jackson not guilty on all charges. And for the first time in months, people cheered. Someone shouted justice. But Darius just bowed his head, letting out a breath like he'd been holding it for years. And Lena was there, holding his hand, bruised and trembling. No words needed. Because sometimes a gesture says everything. A photo of that moment hit the front page. Headline split between justice prevails and a new chapter, or more of the same. 2 weeks later, Finch was fired, held his own press conference. I did my job. I won't apologize. And the public split all over again. Some cheering, some screaming the system was under attack. But Darius and Lena stayed out of it. Until a reporter caught Darius outside a community center. Would you do the same again? She asked. And he didn't even blink. If someone lays a hand on my wife without reason, without respect, yes, and this time harder. And that quote blew up, people arguing. But the truth is, it was honest then. One morning, a mural appeared near a school. A black woman on her knees, wrists shackled. A man not raising his fist but reaching to help her up. And underneath, 6 words in white paint. Dignity doesn't ask for permission. People stopped and stared. Some smiled, some turned away. And a little girl asked her mom, did that man save her? Her mother just nodded. Yes, she whispered. And that's the thing, isn't it? Sometimes justice isn't a verdict or a headline. It's a choice. A hand reaching out when the world says don't bother. And that's where I'll leave it. Because I want to know, do you think he was right? Or did he just make things worse? What does justice look like, really, when you're the one living it? Drop your thoughts in the comments. What side are you on? And what would you have done if you were standing on that Oakland street?